and I'm taking all your good lines from you, I want you to know. But I'm going to do it. They pay you royalties. But you said the internet's a fascinating place because it is very democratic, but it is also very intimate in the sense that a lot of people are there, pardon me, but in their underwear, in their bedroom, blogging. So they will feel, it's anonymous, I should say, and it's also intimate. So in a weird way, you get this confluence of some very interesting currents going on there. And I think it leads to some real ugliness. We just did a story at Busted Halo by a young nun, 30-something nun from a traditional order who basically wanted to comment on the vagina monologues as being not that bad. Not a great work of art, but that she thought as a woman who's experienced some of her own abuse, that it was a positive experience reading it. And I can only tell you that we got more mail in a day than I've ever seen in my life. And it's some of the most horrible things. And I decided to publish them all because they were the most vicious things. And I want to see people, I wanted to show people the level of the discussion that goes on sometimes on the net, because it is in the name of God, in the name of Jesus, some of the ugliest things you can imagine to our Christian brothers and sisters to say these mean things. And I'd love to hear all of you comment on that, because I'm sure all of you have come across that many, many times. So any of you, please.
It's funny, a couple months ago, I was talking to a friend of mine. It's funny because I guess a consequence of all what we're doing now is just like bishops are just getting email like crazy. Every bishop I know seems to be getting a BlackBerry, and they think it's just like dropped out of the sky like manna. It's a miracle, I'm like, no, these have been around for a couple years, But I was talking to a friend of mine who's a bishop who's very good with his email and who can be outspoken sometimes. And I said, I said, is it just me, or are things getting kind of really a lot more shrill? And he said, no, I see it. Because it seems as if that intimacy of the internet, what it does is, and this is especially, we need to be mindful of this, I think, in the life of the church. And, I guess the one thing about comment boxes is that, it's one thing if it's our own private conversation, but these are things which are like aired in the sight of the world, So, these are easily Googleable. You can type in like any Catholic term, you'll find a blog, and you might find a comment post with things you're like, I didn't know Catholics were like this, It's not, it's a bit of a, not the best advertisement, but at the same time, that intimacy of the internet, what it does is it's objectified people. It's turned them into not, it's kind of disenabled some people to see the human dignity of somebody else, that they're a child of God with the same rights and the same, and deserve to be respected for who they are, irrespective of what they're advocating. And you turn people, the internet has turned a lot of people, and I see this just day after day in so many places, and I see it even in the emails that kind of people pitch to me for stories, like that these people are issues who must be destroyed, that they are an agenda which must be destroyed. And when you do that, when you go into like what in the last decade was called the politics of personal destruction, there's no way with that we can have the credibility of advocating a pro-life message and say we respect human dignity if we just go after people like this. If we don't keep it civil, if we don't keep it above board. And again, I think the bishops are kind of seeing this in a way they haven't seen. And anytime you want to get anything moving in the church, you have to go to the bishops. And I think the bishops are kind of, they're taking much more of a look at all of the stuff, the blogs, the internet, in a way that even 2-3 years ago that wasn't there. Now we have a blogging cardinal. This is the first mention of the blogging cardinal tonight, Cardinal O'Malley of Boston. But still, even in those comment boxes, he's got comment boxes even, and you can sometimes see these kind of, shrill things pop up. He lets them stay there, God bless him. But that kind of shrillness, again, it doesn't do wonders for, I think, our image, because this is something that's easily accessible. But at the same time, even just, our core message, especially now with the Pope going back to basics, God is love and all of this, well, how can we advocate any teaching if we're just kind of just jumping, or if the stereotype is, and it's, even if it's not unanimous, it's still prevalent out there, just of people kind of going after each other about the littlest things, and just not showing much love at all. So. Sorry.
One of the things we haven't mentioned is the anonymity of comments, and I think that has...
the anonymity of bloggers, some of them.
True. The anonymity of some bloggers, which is problematic, especially when they're writing severely critical, not always backed up claims about a lot of people, some of whom are public figures. I found consistently that the folks who cause the most trouble on our blog don't use their real name. And that lack of accountability to an editor is anathema. I mean, that's, we at Commonweal anyway do everything we can not to publish anonymous articles. And so for people to come on our blog, and it's been an ongoing question for us, it will continue to be so, the degree to which we are responsible for the comments that appear on our blog. What can we do about these people who come on our blog, don't use their name, and declare some of our readers heretics? If we start to ban them, we'll suffer criticism that we are censoring or we're not interested in open debate, et cetera, et cetera. We want to foster, I want to foster the kind of open forum for polite, and I am by no means always polite. I
can attest to that.
Bill can attest to that. Sometimes I'm not polite. But that's the goal, and not everyone who comes on our blog, and I'm really only speaking about our blog, not everyone shares that goal. There's a lot of point scoring, which, and this is pure speculation, there's a tremendous, there are a lot of retired lawyers on our blog.
They're the people who thank those of you who are watching retired lawyers. Thank you for keeping our numbers up. We love you.
I mean, they certainly. Sure, right, and not just retired. And I
retired ones.
I don't have. I've never memorized a single lawyer joke, so I won't tell one now. But there is a kind of combativeness, and it's as though you're sitting in an episode of LA Law or Boston Legal, and that's enormously frustrating for me, because we have a great deal of very intelligent, educated readers with a lot of information to share, and 9 times out of 10, that's what we get. But it's that 1 time out of 10 that really frustrates our goals with the blog.
Does that hurt the church or your faith at all, or is that sort of test?
It doesn't hurt my faith. I mean, I think that Commonweal, as a totally independent institution,
right,
is not an evangelical. I mean, we are not in the business of bringing people to their faith,
right,
or bringing faith to people. So it's a different sort of goal that we have.
Sure. Amy?
Yeah, if I could just say something about anonymous commenters. I mean, and on my turf, anonymous commenters have no rights. Right. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the way it works, like with my software, which is TypePad, I can require an email. That's about as much as I can do, but it can be a fake email, noone@noemail.com or something like that. There's really no way for me to ascertain or to demand that people be providing me accurate information. And people actually have their points about that. I mean, they want to say, I'm doing this from work. I don't want to provide my real email or my real name. I've had people write to me in the past and say, I commented on your blog in, 2003, and it's coming up on Google. Could you please remove it from your comments? And, which I do. But at the same time, we're out there doing this stuff under our real name. And it sort of irritates me that folks use us, use us to promote their own agenda anonymously. And that's a huge problem in blogging. And I want to just touch very briefly on what Rocco said about the negativity and all of that kind of energy. That's not new with blogging. Anybody who's been on the internet since 98 or 96, it started with the email lists. And if you ever ventured onto like the AOL religion boards back in the day, you know how that immediately, those discussions got very vicious and very negative. And so it's sort of just sort of the way it goes in a way, but I think we're fully in our rights to try to control that. Because as I was telling Father Joyce on the way over, there's something, the good part of the anonymity of the blogosphere is that people who may be a little hesitant, say, about going to a local Catholic church to inquire about being Catholic may, do some searches and come upon some Catholic blogs. And maybe that might be their entry into learning what Catholics think and how Catholics think and what Catholics do. And so for that reason, I think I feel a responsibility not to present anything fake or, artificial or anything like that, but to sort of, weed out the cranks. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We don't let the cranks teach our CIA, so I don't think, so.
Thank you, Amy. That's a good point, and a